Imagine two cities, same culture, same history, but one is wealthy, safe, and full of opportunity, while the other struggles with poverty, violence, and broken systems. What if I told you the cause isn't geography, or culture, or even intelligence? According to Why Nations Fail by Daron Acemoglu and James A. Robinson, the real reason some nations rise and others collapse comes down to a single, powerful force: the institutions that shape our lives. Today, we're breaking down the book that rewrites everything. We think we know about global wealth and poverty, but prosperity isn't about luck. It isn't about climate. It isn't about culture. It's about the rules of the game, and those rules are created by institutions. Let's start with a simple question. Why does North Korea remain one of the poorest nations on Earth, while South Korea, same culture, same history, same peninsula, became a global powerhouse? Or take Nogales, a city cut in half by the US-Mexico border. Same people, same weather, two completely different levels of safety, wealth, and opportunity. The book's answer is shockingly clear. Institutions determine everything. The authors divide institutions into two categories: inclusive and extractive. Inclusive institutions open the doors for people to start businesses, buy property, innovate, get educated, and compete fairly. They create what economists call incentives. In other words, if you work hard, invest smart, or create something valuable, you can benefit from it. This is the engine that drives prosperity. Extractive institutions do the opposite. They exist for one purpose: to transfer wealth and power to a small elite. The average person can't safely invest. Innovation is punished. Success is dangerous. And entrepreneurship is blocked unless you belong to the ruling circle. These systems don't just fail to create growth, they actively prevent it. To truly understand this, the book gives us some mind-blowing comparisons. 1. North Korea versus South Korea. In the North, extractive political institutions concentrate power in a tiny group. They fear innovation. They fear competition. They fear anything that could challenge their control. In the South, inclusive political institutions created a stable, accountable government, which then built inclusive economic institutions. And those institutions unleashed one of the greatest economic miracles of the modern world. Same people, different rules, different outcomes. 2. Nogales, Arizona versus Nogales, Sonora. On the U.S. side, residents are protected by courts, police, and property rights. They can open businesses, get loans, and trust that contracts will be honored. On the Mexican side, corruption, weak law enforcement, and political instability create uncertainty and danger. The incentives are completely different, and people respond to the incentives they're given. 3. Bill Gates versus Carlos Slim. Both became wildly rich, but the way they did it reveals everything. Bill Gates built wealth through innovation and faced antitrust laws holding him accountable. Creative destruction and competition were allowed. Carlos Slim's wealth came from monopolies, protected by political connections in Mexico. Instead of competing in an open market, he thrived under extractive institutions. 2 billionaires, two completely different systems. The authors then challenge 3 popular explanations for global inequality. 1. The geography theory. Poor countries are poor because they're in the tropics. Wrong. Some of the wealthiest civilizations in history were tropical, and today, tropical Singapore is one of the richest nations on Earth. Climate doesn't determine destiny. Institutions do. 2. The culture theory. Certain cultures just work harder or value education more. Wrong again. North and South Korea destroy this argument instantly. Same culture, completely different outcomes. Culture often reflects institutions, not the other way around. 3. The ignorance theory. Poor countries are poor because leaders don't know how to create growth. Also wrong. Most leaders know exactly what policies would help their country. They simply choose not to adopt them because those policies would take power away from the elite. It's not ignorance, it's incentives. The next section is where the book gets fascinating. The authors state that institutions don't stay the same forever. They evolve through something the authors call critical junctures. These are massive shocks like the Black Death, the discovery of the Americas, industrialization, revolutions, and wars. During these moments, societies may shift toward inclusivity or fall deeper into extraction. Small differences in history can explode into huge differences in outcomes. Once institutions solidify, they tend to reinforce themselves. One method is the virtuous circle. Inclusive institutions protect themselves through the rule of law, checks and balances, broad distribution of power, and open competition. These safeguards prevent any single group from hijacking the system and make backsliding difficult. This is why long-standing democracies rarely collapse. Extractive institutions also reinforce themselves, but in a destructive way through the vicious cycle. Here, elites use wealth to buy more power. More power creates more extraction. More extraction prevents growth. Lack of growth breeds instability. And instability invites coups and civil wars. which often replace one dictator with another. This is the cycle that traps many nations. However, extractive institutions can create short-term growth. The Soviet Union is the perfect example, but long-term innovation, technological revolutions, creative destruction? Impossible. Elites are terrified of innovation because it threatens their control, so they block it, and collapse becomes inevitable. The message of why nations fail is clear. Real prosperity requires inclusive institutions, not foreign aid, not clever economic tricks, not geography or culture, but the political will to distribute power broadly, enforce the rule of law, and protect the rights of all citizens. Nations succeed when people have the freedom and the incentives to build, create, and innovate. Why Nations Fail isn't just a book about history. It's a blueprint for the future. And understanding it might just be the first step in building a world where prosperity is possible for everyone. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and comment which book you want covered next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.